Before we get started, I have a brand new camcorder which I'm filming on right now. It is a Panasonic HC V800, and I bought it to replace my old Panasonic HC V770, which was damaged by some gravel while filming an RC car video. With that said, let's proceed. Now, this should not come as a surprise to anyone who remotely knows me, but I just bought an HO scale steam locomotive. And I'm going to show it to you now. It is an older Spectrum model. It's I think a first production run of this. I'm not absolutely certain. We'll see. It was used, but it was either very well cared for or never run very much. I think I got a good deal on it, and honestly, I'm really pleased to have one at all because this is not a very common model. It's not a very common prototype. It's a rather unique engine that was largely used for logging and mining in various parts of the US, largely in the Pacific Northwest, and here it is now. It's a 3-truck Shay. Now, there were several different types of geared steam locomotives that were used for this purpose, but what made Shay's unique was that all of the drive machinery was on one side of the engine, almost always the right side. Matter of fact, the boiler was actually offset to the side to make room for it, and this is the only type of steam locomotive with a sideways offset boiler. Shay's had vertical cylinders that drove the trucks via a longitudinal drive shaft with universal joints that ran the length of the locomotive. Shay's usually had either 2 or 3 trucks. Thanks to the gearing between the shaft and the wheels, they were very slow, but they had enormous torque, which was good because they were built to pull heavy loads of large logs up steep hills. Essentially, this is a 3-cylinder reciprocating piston engine that happens to be powered by steam, and it has all the same components as a normal steam locomotive drive system, just arranged very differently. You have the main drive rods, which are the ones that are doing the cranky stuff, and then you have the smaller pairs of them that essentially function as Stephenson valve gear, just arranged very differently from the way that it normally is. And this model is fascinating because it models all of this. Despite the tiny scale, it's all there and it's all functional. This being a Shay, the other side of the locomotive is actually quite boring to look at. There's really nothing there of interest. All the drive equipment is on the right side. And they really were slow, too. This is about the maximum speed that a Shay would be expected to run in normal use. They were not passenger engines, they were not high-speed engines, they were really built to pull extremely heavy loads up very steep grades. They were quite a specialized engine, but they were an absolutely fascinating design, and a surprising number of them were built, given how unusual they were. This Spectrum model is actually propelled by those drive shafts. It doesn't have separate gears driving the axles. The drive shafts themselves are functional. That means that the bevel gears turning the wheels are also functional, and this is where the problems begin, because those are extremely tiny bevel gears, and in this early production run at least, they are plastic. And like many plastic Bachmann gears from this era, they are prone to cracking. Now in this model, it's actually not too bad. Only 3 of the 6 bevel gears are cracked, which sounds like a lot, but as you can see, the engine does still run. This does mean, unfortunately, that it can't pull very much, so I'm pretty much restricted to just running it by itself. But even in that case, it is a spectacular piece of engineering and a really interesting little historical artifact. It will probably spend most of its time on static display somewhere on the layout because frankly this isn't really a logging railroad. It's, well, a tourist railroad that maybe theoretically used to be a logging railroad, so it would make sense for it to have a Shay, but it's probably not something that they would run a lot. So most of the time it's probably just going to sit somewhere on a sidetrack looking pretty, and I'll run it occasionally for a bit of novelty. Maybe I'll actually take number 12 off display and put the Shay where it is. Anyway folks, I think that's going to wrap up this video. There's only so much visual interest on camera that I can get out of something moving this slowly. Although, I gotta say, all the little moving fiddly bits are really, really cool to watch. And I'm frankly amazed that Bachmann managed to engineer something like this that runs as reliably as it does, even if there are cracked gear issues. I mean, look at that. This is why Shays are so fascinating. Even though it's the same machinery that you'd find in any other steam locomotive, having it arranged like this is just a completely different experience to watch it in motion. It's so intricate, it's so cool that they managed to do it on a model this small. And even if it's not really going to be something that I run on a regular basis, I'm really pleased that I was able to find one. Oh, I also just noticed this has an illuminated firebox. Huh, I didn't even see that before. Alright folks, well that about wraps up this video. There will be more stuff coming with this new camera, both on this channel and on the BC Shaver and Hobbies channel in the near future, so I will see you then. For now, thanks for watching.